Hi, this is Jules Sandison for FionaDobson.com, and this evening I am talking about finding the express lane on the transition journey. And this is the third in a series. I'll link the previous two episodes in the description below, and there will be more to come. So just as you start to get comfortable with being more androgynous, you find that this whole idea of shifting further down the gender spectrum is really rather comfortable. And while this is my story, I hear the same thing from many trans people. So one sort of moves further down the line, and it feels better as you shift closer to where you need to be. And at this point, I would say, certainly I began to realize I don't really need to go further down this path than I feel comfortable with. I certainly don't need to go under the knife. And so this journey becomes a lot more palatable. It's no longer filled with dread, and I began to really embrace it. Now, some people push things further and further, and I know there's a tendency to attempt to be overly feminine. And this is very performative, and for some people, it can be the way to go. Personally, I lean into a feminine look that reflects the way I feel, so it tends to be clearly femme, but often a little understated. I don't feel like a 17-year-old cheerleader, so I'm certainly not going to try and look like one. I think I probably look more or less the way my mother did when she was my age, and there's nothing Freudian about that. It's just how I feel comfortable presenting. As I've moved further down this path, I've felt increasingly comfortable with what I'm doing. Which brings me to the next step. Eventually, you accept hormones are going to come into this picture at some point. Now, for anyone who does their internet research, you're going to come across a range of online options, some of which are scams and others that may have some value. Phytoestrogens are a plant-based estrogen, and while there's little in the way of research that backs it up, many in the trans community have reported some value in using them. I'm certainly not going to give any medical advice on this, but I would say that it's worth exploring something like fenugreek, or maybe lifting the amount of soy in your diet. It does seem to have some effect. There may be something there or maybe not. Most of the products you'll find when you explore this can be found in health food stores. Even actually suppressing testosterone, licorice and licorice extracts has some impact on that. However, eventually you're going to want the real thing. Estradiol is the most common pharmacy solution. It's a form of estrogen. And for that, you almost certainly will need a prescription. There is a workaround if you happen to be in Mexico or Brazil or one or two other countries where you can buy it over the counter. And if you've got friends coming up from Mexico, it's not too much to ask for them to bring a couple of packs of, I believe it's called Angelique, is the over-the-counter solution down there. It has to be said, though, once you do start on a pharmaceutical regime, things do shift quite dramatically. Many of us go into hormone use thinking the changes will be really swift. My experience at first using estradiol at a fairly low level was more gradual. After a year, I certainly had some breast mass, but that wasn't really the most notable change. The real changes were happening at an emotional level. I found I generally felt much more relaxed and calm about things. I was also more sensitive to some things. I'd sometimes find myself tearing up now and then, in a way that I hadn't previously. It wasn't really sadness, though. While my body was shifting somewhat, so was the way I was thinking, and it was much more comfortable. I found myself wondering if this was how I should always have experienced the world. Certainly my life would have played out very differently. All things considered, I don't think I was really ready for the changes transitions brought about until they happened. I needed to be the person I was before I became the person I am now. I really wasn't ready for any of this until quite recently. Now, eventually you realize you need to secure your supply of HRT. Instead of finding sporadic supplies of dubious quality, you need to get this properly organized. I am fortunate enough to live in Canada where, in spite of some American rhetoric, we have an excellent healthcare system. My doctor set me up with a gender specialist who was just brilliant. I was prescribed with HRT and I inject every week. And also there's a testosterone suppressant. My specialist was understanding and didn't make me feel like a freak. They totally understood my position. Oh, and by the way, this didn't cost anything. When you hear criticism of the Canadian healthcare system, do yourself a favour and just take a moment to ask if the person providing that criticism has an agenda of their own. My experience of 26 years of this country has been wonderful. And now, each Monday morning, I go through the ritual of my weekly injection. I put on some soft music, sit on the edge of my bed, and slowly slide the cold steel needle into my arm and inject the estrogen. And it feels wonderful. Then I am able to deal with whatever the week has in store for me. I'm Jules Sandison for FionaDobson.com. Be sure to like and subscribe and all that stuff wherever you find this.